hey buddy, what up? Let's have lunch later. But then they go back to their team and they're like, do you know what? Do you know what he just said?
Hey, we need to talk.
Hey, Church Communicator, it's time to talk. Jump in with us as we continue the conversation about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So you guys, let's recap the last 3 dysfunctions. We started with absence of trust.
I think just going back, it really is like the pillar, like the beginning pillar of everything. Yeah, I feel like trust is maybe, if not the most important thing that your team can have with each other.
Building trust takes time, but being willing to build. I don't know if we fully touched on that the last time, but I remember us talking about some of us are just quick to believe something. And so we go with not trusting people, but it's okay that trust takes time. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's not okay to cut it off and be like, nope, not trusting you, you know?
Yeah. That's really good.
How many of us get those emails where it's hey, I've added in my boss, your boss. I've added in all these people to point out that you're doing something wrong. And I've brought all these people in here. Number 1, what you're saying there is, I don't trust you. Number 2, what you're saying there is that I'm not going to work on the trust side of stuff with you. Right. I'm literally just going to bring a bunch of people into this conversation to point out what you're doing wrong. And that doesn't help build trust. That actually builds divisiveness in our companies, in our systems, in our churches, and in what we're doing. And that's a lack of wanting to build into the trust. And we have to think about those things. We have to think before we push send, before we go, hey, somebody's telling me this and I'm going to go check in on it over here and ask this person over here. Instead of doing that, we have to go, do I want to build trust with this person? Do I want to spend the time and the energy making sure that this person and I have a good relationship? And if you feel like, okay, I can't really trust you, but I do feel like I want to build this relationship, then double think, step back and rethink about what I'm about to do, the email, the text, whatever I'm about to send, how that sounds, what that looks like, who all I'm going to add into it, kind of thing.
That's so good. I feel like you just made me realize someone I had worked with before, they would always bring leadership into every issue. And I was I had a hard time trusting them, but now it's they didn't trust they had a hard time with trust.
Absolutely.
So I just had an aha moment. Thank you so much for
that. That's really good. I feel like even just touching on the fact that emails or whatever, do these things face to face. Conflict needs to be had face to face. If you're having conflict over an email or it text, context gets misconstrued. It's really, really not healthy to, and again, bringing people in. It's just also we're church communicators. It's not biblical. Do not bring other people in. Go to the person first.
And so number 2 being fear of conflict. So, right? When we don't trust each other, when we don't trust the other party, we don't want to eat healthy conflict at all. We don't want to come into conflict with that person because there's a lack of trust. And then the third one that builds and stacks on top of there is the lack of commitment. So we're missing trust. We're missing the conflict. We're missing healthy, good conflict. And then now on top of that, we build a lack of commitment.
Yeah. It's like a, what's the word? You're trying to keep yourself safe. It's basically what that is. You're trying to protect yourself is basically what that is.
Survival. What is that?
Yeah.
A defense mechanism or something?
Defense mechanism. That's the word. That's what I was looking at. Yeah. It's a defense mechanism. It really is.
All right, here we go. The 4th dysfunction, avoidance of accountability. True. So when we avoid accountability, we start to second guess right? And we start to lack that like common objectives that we have. This leads to the inability to develop standards for performance, really, when it comes to our workplaces and our teams. Team members start to miss deadlines, and they deliver mediocre work because there's no accountability built into that relationship, that team anymore. It's just everybody's just kind of flying high, doing whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. And in the end, it starts to affect the entire team as opposed to team members.
Yeah, I definitely have experienced that in like a team setting. And I think even the harder thing is like when certain people are held to different accountabilities too. That can be really, I think, frustrating for like in a team setting. Like, well, why is that person not held accountable? But I am. But again, it goes back to like, well, why aren't we holding them accountable? Oh, we're not having those tough conversations to deal with this issue. And again, like we said, it all goes back. But yeah, I've definitely dealt with that and been on the like frustrated side, I think, of it, and been like, why is no one saying anything? What's happening?
Yeah.
And then everyone is like, it is like you said, you're kind of like flying by the seat of your pants. Like we're just kind of doing whatever we want because we don't want to offend anyone, but really like it's okay to have those like conversations and things like that. So
I'm not sure I mentioned it. So the Five Dysfunctions, it's a Patrick Lencioni book. I love The Working Genius. So love me some Patrick. Okay. Just throw that in there, edit. But so he's the one who wrote The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And one of the things that he refers to in this chapter of the book is that like goal setting is very important for teams. Like, and it's very important for accountability is making sure that we have those goals. And as a team, we need to have team goals. We need to have team accountability to go, this is where we're going. This is what we're all doing together. And when you have dysfunction within a team, employees that should be a part of that goal setting and that goal setting process become not a part of that. So then what ends up happening is you as a team, maybe if there's like a dysfunctional team member or there is some dysfunction within a full process, a full team, let's say somebody is in a communications department, but there's some dysfunction within the communications department and the student department or family department, right? So the communications department is going to have their goals. They're going to have that trust. They're going to have the great relationship. But then over here, we now have the student department with their goals and what they have going on. And what we see is within an organization, we see collide. And then what ends up happening? We all know what ends up happening in those situations, right? That leader and this leader go into a meeting and it's, well, your team, well, your team, well, your team, well, your team. And so now the overall goal of the entire church, which is our mission, the overall goal of our business, which is the mission, this is what we're here for. It no longer becomes, this is the goal and this is our set and our process and like how we're going to get there. And it becomes team against team. And I think, in the accountability, we need to have accountability, us as a team. We need to have accountability, them as a team. And then we need to have accountability within both departments, both teams to be able to go, we now have trust, these leaders, we have trust. We're going to build trust with our teams. We're also going to build in that conflict. We're willing to come and have these conversations. So now you as a leader and them as a leader don't come in the room and go, well, your team and your team. Instead, they come in the room, they go, something's off. Let's talk about it and let's work on it together.
I think that happens so much more than we realize, like in every church, every organization, whatever, like, it's really easy to be like, oh, like, we joke and say like, oh, production team, best team, like, but like, then there's like frustrations. Like, I mean, I feel like I experienced that a lot between like production and worship, like learning that communication pattern, like, well, you guys never show up on time. Well, you guys never do this or whatever that is. But going back to, I love what you're saying, Kim, is like when you were talking, I'm thinking like if we're not aligned in a vision, we're not going to be brought together, like, you know? And so I think that always entering those conversations, being reminded of the vision. What is the vision of why we're doing what we're doing? Like, you know, it could be as simple, great, as the Great Commission. But like, also, what is the vision of your church? You know, the church that I worked at in California was love Jesus, serve people, adopt the city. Like, are we doing that as we're entering this meeting? You know what I mean? Like, those types of things are other ways to help us, like, again, stay accountable, not only to each other, but to the vision of the church.
Yeah. I was thinking that too, Brittany, what you were saying, like the vision, it's so important for leadership to make that vision clear as well, and really hold that vision and that standard, which does put a lot of pressure. But I think even when it comes to like dysfunction or a team, it trickles, right? Like it trickles sometimes from the top. And so, you know, depending on how high you up are in leadership, like you have to take into accountability, like looking, you know, being inward focused and figuring out, like, am I being emotionally healthy? Am I, you know, like all of those things are going to affect the team as well. And so I think taking that into consideration, if you have a team that's like being dysfunctional, okay, maybe something can change from a leadership perspective too. You know, what can you do as a leader? Maybe you have to make the vision more clear, or hold people to the, you know, set goals, hold people to standards, things like that. So
that's so good, Tika. And it's like convicting, because full transparency, like that's a place that I've definitely failed as a leader before. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that or done that, but like when I feel like disconnected or lack of commitment, lack of trust, like getting to this point, like I am checked out. Like if I'm ready to go, you know what I mean? And that's not good. Like I shouldn't have been that way, or in the past, or even, you know, if that creeps up in now, I don't know, but it's something to be reminded of, because it's like, it's really, really hard. And so it's not like we're talking, you know, sitting here, I'm talking like, oh yeah, I have it all together, I've done it all right, or something. Like it's even like, absolutely not. It's more like, yeah, like, yes, this is convicting just as much, you know?
I want to go back to what you were saying there, Tika, about leadership. And I think that's when you can look at a team, when I can walk in with a team, or even look at a team that I am on and I am a part of, and I can go, gosh, there's some dysfunction here. This team is not working well with this team, right? Whether it be in ministry, whether it be in your organization, in your business, this team over here is producing and doing this stuff. This team over here is producing and doing this stuff, and they don't work well as a team. There's that immediate, what leadership wants to do is we want to go, oh, you guys need to fix that. Like, we're not going to have an us versus them mentality around here. And we're going to work as a team. We're going to all be one team. Let's teamwork this. And like leadership wants to do that to make you, and you start to feel like, gosh, I'm the little one here. Like, okay, gosh, what I should be working on this. But here's the thing, and I'm going to say this, and this could get me in trouble, but we need to look all the way up the ladder, because that dysfunction within those teams did not start just because they decided one day, we're not going to work well together. It starts somewhere. And in every situation that I have experienced personally, and every situation I have been in personally, it starts with us as the leader. It starts with the lead pastor. It starts with the executive leadership. It starts with your board. It starts with your partners. It starts at the top of the ladder, and it's flowing down. And so we need to look and we need to go, you know what? Is the pastor and the executive pastor team, are they getting along? Like, are they truly, do they walk in a room and they just smile and they smile at each other? And they're like, hey, buddy, what up? Let's have lunch later. But then they go back to their team and they're like, do you know what he just said? Do you know what's going on there? And they're starting to build that distrust. They're starting to build the lack of conflict.
And that's the thing too. Going through these things, we can always be like, oh, I know someone who like is like that. But it's like, we also need to look at ourselves too and be like, all right, where am I failing? But then if you're someone that always blames yourself, maybe it's okay to look outward too.
Yeah.
It's not always your fault.
Hey, we need to talk.
Thanks for tuning into the Hey, We Need to Talk podcast. We hope today's episode has equipped you with insights and strategies to enhance your church communications efforts.
Remember, we're here every Tuesday with fresh content to keep you up to date on what's happening in church communications. If you found value in today's discussion, we'd love for you to join us again next week by clicking the follow button wherever you listen to podcasts.
And hey, you're a part of this conversation too. So if there's a topic you'd like to talk about, make sure to leave a comment in the episode and on social media.
For more resources or just to set up a call with any one of our team members, head over to churchcommunications.com and check out our free online learning platform, CC+, where you can access a wealth of additional resources to support your church communications journey.
We're Zach and Kim, and from all of us here at Church Communications Group, we're looking forward to helping you find clarity, confidence, and connection in your church communications.